My name is David, and I am 61 years old. For the past 3 years, I have been living in a silence that is of my own making. It is the silence of a son who will not speak to his father. My son Michael is 32 years old, a brilliant architect, a kind husband, and a man I barely know anymore. Because for the first 29 years of his life, I treated him not as a son, but as a project to be perfected, a legacy to be crafted, a reflection of my own ambition. I pushed him relentlessly to be the best, to achieve more, to climb higher. I thought I was teaching him the value of hard work and excellence. What I was actually teaching him was that my love was conditional, that his worth was measured in accomplishments, and that he, as a person, was not enough. And now he won't talk to me. I am here to tell you my story, not to absolve myself, but to serve as a cautionary tale. Do not follow my path. The destination is a desolate, lonely place. My obsession with Michael's success was born from my own perceived failures. I was a moderately successful lawyer, but I had never made partner at a top firm. I saw in Michael, my only child, a chance to achieve the greatness that had eluded me. He was my second chance. This is a terrible burden to place on a child, the weight of a parent's unfulfilled dreams. But at the time, I didn't see it as a burden. I saw it as a gift. It started early. When other kids were playing, Michael was learning his letters, practicing piano. I filled his life with tutors, coaches, and extracurricular activities, each one carefully chosen to build a flawless resume. His childhood was not a time for exploration. It was a training ground. I remember his 5th grade teacher telling me, "Michael seems so stressed. He doesn't play with the other children." I felt pride. That's my boy, I thought. Focused, driven. I didn't hear her concern. I only heard confirmation that my plan was working. I celebrated his achievements, but my praise was always a prelude to the next challenge. He got a 98 on a math test, and I would ask, what happened to the other 2 points? My love and approval were always just out of reach, dangling at the top of the next higher mountain. I was creating a performance-based relationship. He had to earn my affection through his accomplishments, and he tried. He was the golden boy, the envy of all my friends. He was my masterpiece, and he was miserable. One summer when he was 16, he wanted to go on a trip with his friends, a simple teenage rite of passage. I forbade it. He had a summer internship at a prestigious law firm. We had our first real fight. He yelled, "Dad, I just want to be a kid for 1 week." I responded with cold logic. "Fun doesn't get you into Harvard, Michael. Discipline does." He went to the internship, and something broke between us that summer. He stopped arguing. He stopped sharing his feelings. He just complied. He became a ghost in his own life, with a deadness in his eyes that I chose to ignore. The breaking point came when he was a senior in college. He had gotten into Yale. He was graduating summa cum laude. He had a job offer from Goldman Sachs. A week before graduation, he called me. "Dad, I'm not taking the job at Goldman. I'm going to apply to architecture school." I was stunned. I was furious. Architecture? It was not part of the plan. I flew into a rage. I told him he was throwing his life away. I said things a father should never say. I was cruel. I was dismissive. I was terrified. Because his decision was not just a rejection of a job offer, it was a rejection of me. He listened in silence. And when I was done, he said, with chilling calmness, "I knew you would say that. I'm done, Dad. I'm done trying to be the person you want me to be. I'm going to be the person I want to be. And if you can't accept that, then we have nothing more to say to each other." And he hung up. That was 3 years ago. He did not come to his own graduation. He moved to Chicago. He enrolled in architecture school. He got married. I was not invited to the wedding. I have a daughter-in-law I have never met. I have a son who has cut me out of his life as cleanly as a surgeon excises a tumor. And the silence he has left behind is a deafening roar of my own failure. For the first year I was angry. I told myself he was being dramatic, that he would come around. But as the months turned into years, the anger curdled into despair. I began to see a therapist. It required me to admit that my parenting had not been about love. It had been about control. It had not been about his future. It had been about my past. It had not been about his happiness. It had been about my validation. My therapist gave me an exercise. He asked me to write a list of who Michael is. His favorite color. His favorite movie. What makes him laugh. And I couldn't write a single thing. I was 59 years old, and I did not know my own son. I knew his resume, but I did not know his soul. And that realization broke me. I have tried to reach out. I have written letters. I have sent emails. I apologize. I tell him I was wrong. I tell him I love him, unconditionally. But the silence remains. The wall he built to protect himself from me is high, and I do not know if I will ever be able to climb it. I understand now that his silence is not a punishment. It is a consequence. It is the natural result of years of me not listening to him. I silenced his voice, his desires, his very self, for so long that he has finally decided to take it back. Let me explain the psychology of this kind of parenting, because it's a trap many well-intentioned parents fall into. It's control disguised as care. We live in a hyper-competitive world, and we are terrified our children will be left behind. We become their managers, their agents, and in the process, we forget to be their parents. I was the CEO of Michael Inc. I managed his schedule, his education, his social life. I conducted quarterly reviews of his performance. I was so focused on the metrics of his success that I completely missed the data of his humanity. The data of his laughter, his tears, his fears, his dreams. I was running a successful enterprise, but I was failing at the human relationship that should have been at its core. This managerial approach creates a toxic dynamic. The child learns that their value is derived from their performance. They learn they are only as good as their last achievement. They become human doings instead of human beings. They suppress their own authentic selves in favor of the self that will win them approval. They become actors in their own lives, while their true self withers from neglect. There's a particular memory that has become the focal point of my regret. Michael was about 12 and he had developed a passion for drawing. One afternoon he came to me with a drawing he was particularly proud of. It was a detailed, imaginative spaceship. He held it out to me, his eyes wide with hopeful vulnerability. I was reviewing a legal brief. I glanced at the drawing for a moment and then I said, "That's nice, Michael. But have you finished your math homework? You have that big test on Friday." I didn't even really see the drawing. I saw it only as a distraction from the more important work of building his resume. He didn't say anything. He just slowly lowered the drawing. The light in his eyes went out. He nodded, said, "Okay, Dad," and went back to his room. I don't think he ever showed me another drawing again. I had, in that one dismissive moment, communicated to him that his passion was worthless, that the things he loved were not as important as the things I had decided were important for him. Years later, after he had cut me out of his life, I was cleaning out the attic and I found a box of his old things. Inside were his notebooks, filled with hundreds of drawings, each one more detailed, more creative, more full of life than the last. I saw the progression of his talent, the evolution of his style. I saw a world he had created, a world he had tried to share with me, a world I had dismissed as a waste of time. And I sat there, on the dusty floor of my attic, and I wept. I wept for the artist my son might have become if I had nurtured his talent instead of crushing it. This is the insidious nature of this kind of parenting. You systematically extinguish the child's inner fire. You teach them that their own passions, their own interests, their own unique way of seeing the world, are not valuable. You teach them to trade their authentic self for an approved, high-performing version that will win them love and validation. And they will make that trade. Because a child's need for their parents' approval is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. But it is a devil's bargain. They get the approval, but they lose themselves. And one day, when they are old enough and strong enough, they will realize what they have lost. and they will resent you for it. I understand now that Michael's decision to go to architecture school was not just a career choice. It was an act of rebellion. It was an act of self-reclamation. It was him, at 21 years old, finally finding the courage to say, "I will not be the person you designed. I will be the person I am." Architecture was the perfect synthesis of the two worlds he had been forced to inhabit. It was creative, but it was also rigorous. It was a way for him to honor the part of himself that loved to draw, the part that I had tried to extinguish, while still meeting the high standards of excellence that I had drilled into him. It was his declaration of independence, and it was a declaration that, by necessity, had to exclude me. My therapist once told me that what I was experiencing was a form of grief. I was grieving the loss of my son, yes, but I was also grieving the loss of the future I had designed for him. I was grieving the loss of my project, and until I could fully grieve that loss, until I could let go of the future I had wanted for him, I would never be able to accept and love the son I actually have. That has been the work of the last 3 years, the work of letting go, the work of dismantling the ego-driven scaffolding of my own identity and trying to find the man underneath, the man who is just a father who loves his son and wants to be a part of his life. It is a slow, painful, and ongoing process, so if you see a flicker of your own story in mine, I implore you to take a different path. Look at your child. Really look at them. See them for who they are, not for who you want them to be. Nurture their passions, even if they are not the passions you would have chosen. Celebrate their effort, not just their achievements. Make your love a constant, not a variable. Let them know, in 1,000 small ways every single day, that they are enough, exactly as they are. Do not make them earn your love. Do not make them a project. Make them your priority. If you are a parent who is pushing your child, ask yourself this question. Are you pushing them toward their dream, or are you pushing them toward yours? Be honest with yourself, because if you are pushing them toward your dream, you are not helping them. You are using them. You are treating them as a means to an end that is about your own ego, your own validation, your own unlived life. And that is a profound betrayal of the sacred trust that is placed in you as a parent. I am trying to make amends. I am trying to learn how to be a father to an adult son who is a stranger to me. It is a slow, painful, and humbling process. It involves accepting that I may never have the relationship with him that I now so desperately want. It involves respecting his boundaries, even when it hurts. It involves letting go of any and all expectations and simply trying to offer him a love that is, for the first time, truly unconditional. I don't know if he will ever talk to me again in the way that a son should talk to his father. I don't know if the damage I have done can ever be fully repaired. But I have to try. Because he is my son. And I love him. And I am so sorry for the years I spent showing him a version of love that was twisted and broken by my own ambition. This is my story. It is a story of a father who pushed his son too hard and lost him. It is a story of a man who achieved all of his goals and ended up with nothing that mattered. It is a story of the devastating consequences of conditional love. And it is a story that I am sharing in the hope that it will save you from writing a similar one for yourself. Love your children for who they are. Trust them to find their own way. Your approval is not a reward they should have to earn. It is a gift they should be able to count on, always. The alternative is a silence that is a prison of your own making. And it is a lonely, lonely place to be. What I failed to understand is that children are not clay to be molded in our image. They are seeds that contain their own unique blueprint. Our job as parents is not to force them into a shape of our choosing. Our job is to provide the right conditions for them to grow into the person they are meant to be. To provide the soil of unconditional love, the water of emotional support, the sunlight of encouragement. But I was not a gardener. I was a sculptor. And I was determined to chisel my son into a masterpiece of my own design, even if it meant chipping away at his very soul. My wife, Sarah, saw what I was doing. She was the gardener in our family. She was the one who nurtured his spirit, who listened to his feelings, who encouraged his creativity. But my influence was too strong. She would say, "David, he's just a boy. Let him have some fun." And I would reply, "The world is not a fun place. It's a competitive place. I'm preparing him for reality." But the reality I was preparing him for was a hollow one, a reality where success is measured in dollars and titles, and happiness is an afterthought. The silence that now exists between my son and me is not an empty silence. It is filled with the ghosts of all the words that were never said, all the feelings that were never expressed, all the moments of connection that were sacrificed at the altar of my ambition. It is filled with the echoes of his unspoken desires, of his stifled creativity, of his authentic self that was pushed into the shadows. I have spent the last 3 years replaying our life together in my mind, looking for the moments where I could have chosen differently. And they are everywhere. They are in the evenings I spent at the office instead of at home. They are in the weekends I spent catching up on work instead of playing with him. They are in the conversations where I talked instead of listened. They are in the praise that was always qualified, the love that was always conditional. They are a constellation of small daily failures that, over time, created a galaxy of distance between us. Looking back, I can see other moments where his true self tried to break through. When he was about 14, he came to me and said he wanted to quit the swim team. He had been a competitive swimmer since he was 6. He was good, but he didn't love it. He said he wanted to try out for the school play. Instead of being curious, I was dismissive. I told him he was a swimmer, not an actor. I told him that swimming looked better on a college application than drama club. I didn't hear what he was really saying. "Dad, I want to explore a different part of myself." I just heard a deviation from the plan, and I corrected it. He stayed on the swim team. He never mentioned the school play again. And another small piece of his authentic self went into hiding. I remember the day Michael got his acceptance letter from Yale. I was ecstatic. I called everyone I knew. I posted it on social media. But my pride was not for him. It was for me. His acceptance was my validation. It was proof that my plan had worked, that I was a successful father. I took him out to a fancy dinner to celebrate, and I spent the entire dinner talking about his future, about the doors that were now open to him, about the next steps in the grand plan. I never once asked him how he felt. I never once stopped to consider that this achievement might feel like just another heavy stone in the backpack of my expectations that he was forced to carry. There's something else I need to share about the nature of this kind of parenting. It doesn't just damage the child, it damages the parent as well. I spent 30 years of my life so focused on managing Michael's trajectory that I forgot to actually be his father. I forgot to enjoy him. I forgot to marvel at the miracle of watching a human being grow and develop. I was so busy orchestrating his life that I missed the beauty of simply witnessing it. I missed the spontaneous moments of joy, the unexpected bursts of creativity, the quiet moments of connection that make the parent-child relationship so precious. I was so focused on the destination that I completely missed the journey. And now that the journey is over, now that he has grown and gone, I am left with nothing but regrets and what-ifs. The irony is that my relentless work ethic was, in part, an attempt to heal the wounds of my own childhood. My father was a distant, critical man who never seemed satisfied with anything I did. I swore to myself that I would be different. I would be involved. I would be present. I would push my son to achieve the greatness that I had never achieved. But in trying to be different from my father, I became him. The form of the dysfunction changed, but the essence remained the same. A father who made his love conditional, who measured his child's worth in achievements, who failed to see and celebrate the unique human being in front of him. The generational trauma didn't disappear. It just changed its clothes. This is my reality now at 61. I am a retired man with a comfortable life and an ocean of regret. I am a father who is learning to be a friend to his adult son. I am a man who is trying to build a bridge to an island that has long since become self-sufficient. We are making progress. Slow, tentative progress. We talk occasionally. Brief, polite conversations. I am learning about his life. He is a talented architect. He designs sustainable buildings. He is passionate about his work. Who knew? I am learning about his wife, about his dreams, I am trying to be present now. I am trying to listen. I am trying to show him, through my actions, that he is my priority. But the foundation is weak. The shared history is a patchwork of my absences and his compliance. There are inside jokes I will never get, memories I will never be a part of. I am a latecomer to the story of his life, and I will always be. That is the price I paid. I traded his childhood for my ambition, and it is the worst deal I have ever made. Do not repeat my error. Do not believe the lie that you can make it up later. You cannot. Time only moves in one direction. The moments you miss are gone forever. Your children are not a project that can be put on hold. They are a story that is being written every single day. And you are either a character in that story, or you are not. There is no in-between. Be a character. Be present. Be a parent. The work will always be there. The next deadline, the next promotion, the next achievement. They are an endless, insatiable beast. But your child's childhood is a fleeting, precious, unrepeatable miracle. And you are missing it. Every time you choose your ambition over their needs. Every time you push them toward your dream instead of supporting theirs. Every time you make your love conditional on their performance. You are making a trade. And it is a trade you will lose. I pushed my son too hard. I thought I was building him up, but I was tearing him down. I thought I was giving him the world, but I was taking away his soul. And now, he won't talk to me. And the silence is the sound of my own heart breaking over and over again. Don't let this be your story. Love your children for who they are, not for who you want them to be. The alternative is a silence that is too heavy to bear.